Hi, in this video we'll be looking at how to use the font face rule in CSS code to change the font family used on a web page. In the previous video we looked at different font properties, including the font family property, but we're only using web safe fonts like Arial, Times, Tahoma, etc. But what if you wanted to use your own font that maybe you've created yourself, or one that you've downloaded from a website and you have a font file for? So we'll look at that in this tutorial, and the way that we do that is we add a font face rule to our CSS code. So currently I have this web page here, and it's just using the default font family here for a H1 size heading, and this is the code here. So I've just got the H1 element, that's my heading there on the web page, and I've got my CSS file here, my external style sheet linked, and that's theme.css, which is over here on the right hand side of the page. So if I go and have a look at my website folder, I have two files here, index.html, which is my web page, and then theme.css, which is my style sheet. I also have a fonts folder here, and I've downloaded a font from a website, and it's called Blackbird, and it's a true type font, so it ends in the .ttf file extension. So I want to use this particular font on my web page rather than this default Times font. So in my code, what I can do is go to the CSS, and I can add a rule. So I type in @ and I add a rule, and the rule is font face. Alright, what I need to do first is give this font or font family a name that I'm going to refer to in my CSS code when I want to use this particular font family. So I'll just say font family, and I could call it whatever I like here, but I'm going to call it Blackbird because that's the official name of the font. And then what I need to do is link this file, which is in this folder. So I've got the fonts folder, and then inside that I've got this file here, blackbird.ttf. So I need to link that here. So what I do, I'll just make some more room here, is to say source, or src, URL. So that's going to be the link, or uniform resource later, so uniform resource locator, which is a link. So that's going to be this file here, blackbird.ttf, but because it's in another folder within my website folder, and that folder is called fonts, I need to specify that folder or directory here as well. So I'll just say source URL, and then in brackets fonts / and then the font name, which is blackbird.ttf. Now that won't really do anything yet. If I go back to the web page and refresh, we're not using that font yet, and that's because we need to now specify where we want to use this particular font family. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll apply that to my H1 size heading. So I'll say H1, and we'll refer to the H1 element selector there, and I'll say font family, and then I can simply just refer to the name that I've given the font family that I want to use, which is Blackbird. Just make sure I spell that correctly. Okay, so I'll save that, go back, refresh the page, and there we go. That's my heading now using the Blackbird font family. Okay, so two things. Firstly, you specify a font face rule, which is supported in Internet Explorer, Firefox, Opera, Chrome, Safari. So you specify the font face rule first, you give it a name, you specify where the font file is coming from, and then you can go and use that font family for different text elements on the page, like headings or paragraphs. Now you can have as many font face rules as you like. So if I download another font, I can use another font face rule, give it a name, and specify where that font's coming from. That's what I'm going to do now. So I'll show you something you can do. So you can either download font files like what I've just done, and there's a few different types of files that are supported, like .ttf or .woff. So different types of font files you can download from different websites. But you can also use services like Google Fonts. So if you go to fonts.google.com, you can browse lots of different font styles or font families here. So for example, this one here, Roboto, if I like that, I can just click on the plus. Right, so down here now I've got one font family selected, and what I can do is now embed that font family into my page. So what you would do is copy this here, which is just a style sheet. So copy that, go back to my code, and in the HTML file, just paste that in there. So now I'm referencing the Google Font API there. So first I copy that, and then in my CSS code, I can copy this font family property, and instead of using Blackbird font family, I'm now going to use Roboto as the font family. Save that, go back and refresh, and there we go. It's basically downloaded the Roboto font family from Google Fonts, and now I'm using that in my own web page. So you can also you can select a whole heap of fonts. You can just click the little plus and select a few in one go, and then what that will do is it will change the link so it's got more than one font selected. You just go back, update this reference here to the CSS style sheet on Google Fonts, paste in the new link, and then you can use whichever one of these that you like. So I can still use Roboto, or I could use this one instead. So once you've got that link in your HTML code with all the different fonts that you want to choose from, you can then just go and select individually which fonts you want to use. So now I've just changed that to Blue 2, save that, go back to my web page, refresh, and now I'm using that font. Okay, so that's it for this tutorial. In the next video, we'll look at how to add text shadows. Thanks for watching.